Greetings, everyone. I am Stacy Pettis, Executive of Institutional Relationships at United Church Funds. We welcome everyone to a very exclusive town hall meeting that United Church Funds is hosting for participants of the Missionary Society of Connecticut Consolidated Trust Fund. We are excited to have you join us this evening, and we trust that this session will provide you with some background information about our organization, United Church Funds, and our sustainable and responsible investment platform, clarity about the upcoming changes, and an opportunity to answer any outstanding questions. We do have an active Q&A box that you can type in your questions, and we'll be sure to answer them at the end. Several of our UCF staff members, as well as the leadership from the Southern New England Conference, are with us today on the webinar. The Reverend Darrell Goodwin, Executive Conference Minister, will briefly share some insights around the conference's decisions in selecting United Church Funds as the trusted investment partner, followed by a brief overview of UCF offerings and transition process from CTF's current manager to UCF. Then we'll have Matthew Illian, Director of Responsible Investing, to share how UCF is actively engaging in ESG issues through our robust and multifaceted approach, followed by Matthew Wagner, VP of Institutional Relationships, who will guide you through the many service offerings that are now available at your fingertips once you are a client of United Church Funds. We have also left some time at the end to answer questions that you may have for us or for Charlie Kuchenbrog from the conference staff related to the transition. As we shift over into sharing a bit about United Church Funds, United Church Funds has been around for quite some time, over 100 years, and we are the trusted investment partner to 1,100 local churches, religious judicatories, and faith-based nonprofits, with over $1 billion in assets under management. We are experienced nonprofit partner to fiduciaries in the development, management, and governance of endowments. And we're a recognized leader in responsible investing strategies aligned with the United Church of Christ and like-minded progressive Christians. I'm going to take a second here to introduce the Executive Conference Minister of the Southern New England Conference to allow him the opportunity to share with you the conference's ideas, thoughts around this transition process. Darrell, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and to you at UCF for doing this webinar, which I think is really, really helpful. I'll try to keep my comments brief, but just to highlight a couple of reasons why the Southern New England Conference made this partnership overall, but ways in which I think it can be beneficial to all churches across our 3 states. The first one I think is it's about covenant. United Church Funds is a covenant to ministry of the United Church of Christ, and the Southern New England Conference I think has a vested interest in being in partnership with all of our covenanted ministries. The second part, and I know you all will touch on this, is your commitment to responsible investing. And also I might add my own language, social justice investing, which I think is further in alignment with who we want to be in the Southern New England Conference. What you'll notice, even in the embodied in Stacy, who is the connection with the Southern New England Conference through UCF, is a commitment to diversity and diverse leadership, not just in words and a mission statement, but actualized in the staff of UCF. Every time we've interacted with UCF as a conference leadership, we have seen this continued commitment to embodied diversity and diverse leadership. And then last, which I hope all of you have some inkling of concern about, deliverables. My engagement with UCF, I think, has always produced the deliverables that make sense to the church as an investor, meaning the local church, but then also conferences. Another hat I wear is I serve on the investment and endowment committee for the United Church of Christ board. And every time I'm sitting in those meetings, I continue to hear commitments to all of the things I've mentioned. A commitment to our covenant, commitment to responsible investing, and commitment to diversity embodied in UCF's leadership, but then commitment to all of the partners of UCF overall. So I think this makes sense, Southern New England, for who we are. I think that our investments will continue to be in trusted hands. And then the last thing I'll offer is Charlie is listed here as our legacy consultant, which he is for the Southern New England Conference. But Charlie and I have also been in conversation about how he might staff the Southern New England Investment Committee. And that's important to me for continuity of leadership from the Consolidated Trust to UCF and the partnership we have collectively as Southern New England. So thank you so much, Stacy and the staff from UCF. I see many familiar names, Matt and Adam and Kelsey as well. And thank you for this webinar. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Darrell. Thank you for taking the time to join us. This is such an important partnership for us, and we could not be more ecstatic to have the Southern New England Conference as a trusted partner alongside us. As we continue on in the presentation, I wanted to take a little time to share about how our platform of responsible funds is constructed. We have 11 professionally managed fund options at United Church Funds, 6 actively managed funds with exposure to a specific asset class, and then we also have 4 balanced fund options that provide pre-selected, diversified risk and allocation profiles. We will talk in just a moment about the 2 balanced fund options in which your assets will be transitioning into. But before we get to that, I just wanted to share that UCF assists all of our clients in understanding your goals and risk tolerance to build diversified investment portfolios that are consistent with your long-term objectives. We have several conversations with our clients to ensure that everything is in alignment with what is going on with your individual church. We also track our fund performance using industry standard indexes as well as Lipper peer metrics that really allow us to see how we're performing versus other portfolios that have similar compositions. And then we also wanted to mention that in all of our traditional funds, we provide daily liquidity to our clients. So that gives you an opportunity to make withdrawals at your discretion. There are no penalties or transaction fees for any of these kinds of transactions. Now, to speak a bit about the current transition that we are embarking upon, we mentioned this in some of the letters that were sent out to you, but we wanted to explain how this transition will occur. Um, we currently have, you currently have 2 fund options with the CTF, with the way that the CTF funds are currently constructed. You have the Total Return Fund and the Eden Fund. CTF has selected 2 UCF fund options that are comparable to your current allocation. So as you can see, current accounts invested in the CTF Total Return Fund will transition to the UCF Balance Fund. And current accounts invested in the CTF Eden Fund will transition to the UCF Beyond Fossil Fuels Balanced Fund. We have noted that both the Eden Fund and the Beyond Fossil Fuels Balanced Fund exclude companies with fossil fuel reserves and those that produce for oil, gas, or coal. So as we move over to the next slide, this actually provides a visual depiction of the portfolio construction of the UCF Balanced Fund and the Beyond Fossil Fuels Balanced Fund as of 12/31, 2023. UCF's investment team, who we will be introducing you to in future webinars, has the ability to overweight and underweight the allocation plus or minus 10% based on market conditions or other factors. This is why you see in the graphical chart that the allocation as of 12/31/23 is not exactly at the target allocation of 60% equity, 40% fixed income. And that's because they do have the authority and the flexibility to make adjustments and be nimble where we see opportunity and where we need to sidestep risk. So in moving forward to the next slides, actually both slide 8 and slide 9 give you an opportunity to see what the benchmark comparison and Lipper peer comparisons are for each of these funds. And just wanted to notate that both funds actually have the same benchmarks. And you can see that our UCF Balance Fund, as well as the Beyond Fossil Fuels Balance Fund, have outperformed in several time periods, both the Lipper peer as well as the custom indexes that they are measured against. As we move forward, I did want to mention that UCF maintains fully inclusive expense ratios for all fund offerings. So that covers both the administrative cost as well as the investment manager fees of our funds. We do not have any sales commissions, investment or advisory fees, 12B1 fees, transaction fees. So if you do find that you would like to have a conversation in the future about changing your allocation, we're able to do that, and you don't have to worry about any expense being incurred to you. Um, Expense ratios are assessed quarterly to the net asset value of each fund. All of our fund performance is reported net of fees, and you'll also see that in the in monthly and quarterly statements that you receive. Um, no fee is ever deducted directly from your accounts. It is taken quarterly to the net asset value of each fund. If you would move forward one slide, I wanted to introduce you to what I think is one of the most essential pieces of the work that we do. It's a key differentiator, as Darrell mentioned before. It's our sustainable and responsible investment approach, and so I will allow our Director of Responsible Investing, Matthew Illian, to share a bit about the work that we do.
Thank you,
Matthew.
Stacy, and greetings all. I'm going to take you all through just some of the high level of how we do sustainable and responsible investing. And just to start off, Stacy mentioned how critical this work is to the way we view our work as both as fiduciaries, as investment managers, but also carrying the values of the faith and into the work that we do. So there's a couple key components of how we do that work. We have created this this slide because we see 5 tools that we can leverage as owners in shares and the stocks of these companies. The first tool is probably might be the most important, or the one that gives us the most leverage, and that's with the managers that we pick. All of these funds are managed or have multi-managers, and those managers are critical partners for us, not only in the financial performance that they provide, but we look for managers that we believe have also a strong track record in their responsible investing activities. And so we're meeting with these managers on a quarterly basis, asking for updates on the work that they're doing, and holding them accountable also to their commitments to diversity, equity, inclusion, to climate as well. You will hear more in the future about our own commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that includes a commitment to expand our management of the funds particularly on the domestic side, to have 40% or more be managed by diverse-owned firms. And we'll be excited to share more about that journey that we're on with you. But the values alignment is what we're looking for when we hire managers, as well as the financial performance. And so we're looking at that double bottom line. The second tool is investments in impact first ventures, we call them. This is particularly true in our bond portfolios. We have a very high allocation to green bonds that are financing solar farms, low carbon energy transitions, as well as social and sustainable bonds, some that are providing access to clean drinking water around the world, working with development finance institutions, including the World Bank. The third tool is our corporate engagement, and I'll share more information in the next slides about how we do that corporate engagement, but that's a very important part of the work that we do, as well as the fourth tool, which is proxy voting. We take our votes very seriously, meaning we vote for the boards of directors, as well as all of the resolutions, as well as executive compensation issues at all of the companies that we own shares in. And the last tool is, and we put this last for a reason, is essentially when we don't see an opportunity to make change or influence company behavior, corporate behavior, or if the products themselves are simply out of line with the faith values of the church and of our clients, then we have a divestment or screening policy. And I will also go into more details on that. So if we go to the next slide, everything that we do is in partnership and collaboration. And I wanted to share our two most critical partners in this responsible investing work and social activism, social justice work. One is the first most critical partner is the Interfaith Center on Corporate Responsibility. And I'm proud to say that the United Church of Christ and UCF was a founding member, along with several other denominations in this ICCR group. It is now a coalition of over 300 faith and values members who are all involved in sharing and collaborating in corporate engagement. You'll see a few highlighted statistics from the last year. This group collectively filed 122 shareholder resolutions that were withdrawn for agreement. That means they were filed and the corporations agreed to change or create a new policy on diversity, for example, or release information on a climate transition. They agreed to some set of demands that the shareholders were asking for, and so it didn't even need to go to a vote. There were 7 shareholder resolutions that actually received a majority vote in 2023. That means more than 50% of the shareholders agreed with what the shareholder resolution was asking for, and that received the majority support. Another important coalition and collaboration that we work with is called Climate Action 100. This is the largest investor-led climate activism group, creates scorecards and engagements for the largest greenhouse gas emitters in the world, not only calling on them to create a low carbon transition, but also that it be a just transition. This group has been in the news recently because some of the large investment banks like BlackRock, JP Morgan have pulled out of Climate Action 100 because they're, there's a lot of pushback on the climate and sustainable investing. And we are here to say we are stand committed to these efforts because we cannot do this alone and it can't be a piecemeal process. So between ICCR, Climate Action 100, and probably a dozen other partnerships, we continue to push the work of responsible investing forward. The next slide shows a highlight of the shareholder resolutions that United Church Funds filed this past year. The 4 on the left that have the gray shading in the background are resolutions that we withdrew after filing them for various reasons. In two cases, we came to a commitment from the corporations that they would, in the case of analog devices, who were found to have some of their microchips were found in Russian weapons, and they agreed to have a third-party human rights audit. And so we didn't have to go to a vote with the shareholders. They agreed to it. We withdrew, and we're excited about that. The 6 on the right, you'll see topics focused on emergency abortions at hospitals, access to that. Exxon and Westlake on plastic pollution. Alphabet on lobbying disclosure. JP Morgan on indigenous rights in some of the lending that they're doing, and then freedom of association at Wells Fargo. These are all likely going to a vote in the next several months. And so we'll be able to report on the results of those shareholder resolutions. The next and last slide that I have here focuses on the screening that we do. And the areas that we focus on, these top categories of tobacco, firearms, weapons, private prisons, coal, thermal coal extraction, and oil via tar sands, those are all based on the products of the production that they have. And so we have screens for all of those categories. The second two at the bottom, the environmental harm and labor and human rights harm, are really focused on the practices. So these are the companies across all sectors, no matter what they make, what they produce, that have been flagged through a number of research and resources that we have for having very poor performance, controversies in the area of environmental stewardship, as well as labor and human rights. And so we have all told, all put all together, UCF screens out 421 companies. I'm reading the last paragraph you can see there, across our general screens. And then in addition to that, we also have Beyond Fossil Fuel screens. So for those of you invested in the Beyond Fossil Fuels strategy or balance fund, that adds an additional 152 companies that have oil and gas reserves. And so you can see the total there. If you're on the Beyond Fossil Fuels fund strategies, there are 573 companies that are excluded through these combined screens. I will be around afterwards to answer questions, but at this time, I'm going to pass back to my colleague, Matt Wagner, Director of Institutional Relationships.
Matthew, thank you. Welcome to all of our guests, and thank you to Darrell and Charlie for being with us on this as panelists on this webinar this evening. I'm going to speak a little bit about not only our staff, but our service offerings at United Church Funds, and the folks that you see there. As Darrell mentioned earlier, a clear commitment to a diverse team, in addition to diverse investment managers that we welcome onto our platform. And I think what you'll find common amongst all of these friendly faces that you see on the screen is that our job is to be able to support you as a fiduciary partner to meet your fiduciary obligations in service to your church. We have folks that work specifically on our client services team, our accounting team, our institutional relationships team, the work that we're doing around sustainable and responsible investing. It all comes together to create this comprehensive platform of sustainable and responsible funds, competitive performance, and services that allow you, as mostly as volunteers to your church, to be able to, again, meet those fiduciary obligations. As we go to the next slide, we list out just a few of the sort of top line items that you'll find from our client services team. We have a dedicated team of folks who will work with each of your churches to make sure that we understand your needs related to asset transfers, distributions, withdrawals. We offer through our custodian bank, the Bank of New York Mellon, the ability to to facilitate stock donations. So if you have folks in your church that wish to support planned giving or other stewardship campaigns in your church through the donation of stock, we have the ability to work with you on that as well. And we have this robust, relatively new tool for us, our UCF client portal, which we unveiled in November of 2022, that will house all of your statements, that will be updated daily with your account values, all account activity. So real time, you can see that real time. The next day, you'll be able to see all of that information pulled up on your own unique client portal. We also have some other resources for you. Each quarter, each one of our funds, we produce a fact sheet, which is a 2-page document that outlines performance, top holdings, equity metrics, information about our bond portfolio related to duration and risk and other factors. Those are very important pieces of information. And then again, on each quarter, you'll be invited to attend what we call our client market update town hall, which the folks that you see here tonight, in addition to our investment team, put together each and every quarter. It's about a 45-minute webinar that really drills down into our investment performance. And last but not least, our website has access to planned giving and in what we refer to as sort of endowment consulting materials, helping you to develop investment policy statements, develop planned giving campaigns, and other resources to be able to help your church grow your culture of stewardship. Here we have a slide that just gives you the link to a video tutorial related to our portal. We are certainly hopeful that we can get all of you onto the portal relatively soon before we do the transfer, so that we can have that information and make that available to you as we go through this process, which we'll hear more about the next steps here in just a moment. I do want to mention at this point, if you have questions, I encourage you to put those into the Q&A box at the bottom. We do plan to get to as many of those as possible. I did see one question, the first one that came in. Yes, these slides will be available afterwards. Yes, we are recording this webinar to make sure that it's available to others from your church or to other churches, leaders who were unable to join us tonight. And again, we'll make sure to try to get to as many questions as we can after the webinar, at the end of this webinar. If we go to the next page, just a couple of key differentiators for UCF clients. You've already heard from Stacy. Kelsey from our institutional relationships team and I work with our 1,100 clients all over the country to help explain the benefits and the key differentiators that makes UCF such an important, trusted partner to so many churches all over the country. When you look at our investment platform, with $1 billion in assets under advisement, we are large enough to attract the best investment managers, to have an exceptional investment team, to be able to create these 11 funds that combine competitive performance and the values aligned components that our clients want to see. We provide you, of course, with daily liquidity, unlimited sub accounts to be able to be flexible to the needs of our clients. And then on the client services side, we're investing assets for churches across 4 time zones. So we have this dedicated client services team to make sure that each and every church, from San Diego to Seattle, from Maine to Miami, everywhere in between, has access to the information and materials that you need for investment committee meetings, for board of trustees meetings, and to help your church, again, grow your culture of stewardship through planned giving and endowment governance. As we go to the next slide, thanks. I'm going to bring back in Stacy to walk us through the next steps for this transfer. And then our team will be with you to answer the questions that are in the chat. Looks like we've got a few of them. Stacy, go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone who spoke and shared the expertise around different parts of our investment platform. I want to make sure that everyone is clear about what is needed from you in order to ensure that this transition is smooth and that you are fully up to date with what is taking place. So our anticipated transfer date is in mid-April. It's currently scheduled for April 16th, but if there are any adjustments that we need to make to that, we will definitely make sure that it's communicated to you. If you haven't done so already, please visit the webpage that we've created specifically for CTF participants. It is a Google form on that website that requests some contact information from you so that we are able to connect with you via phone and email directly. And then we also have asked that you also revisit the page. If you've already done that, or maybe if you haven't yet, we ask that you revisit the page and complete what we're calling the CTF account transition form. This allows us to receive information from you regarding your authorized officers at your church, and banking instructions so that we can send you your distributions as requested. That's an essential piece in ensuring that there are no delays or any kinds of disbursements missed for your accounts. So please visit that website. Everything related to what is needed and next steps is on ucfunds.org/CT. We ask that you stay in contact with us. If we flip over to the next slide, we've actually created an email address specifically for you all to connect with us. It is ctf@ucfunds.org, and there is also a dedicated phone line for your questions as well. And we have a staff that is ready and very prepared with the types of answers to questions that you may have. At this time, I do want to invite Charlie Kuchenbrod onto the call with us as well to support us in answering some of your questions. So we see that many of you have dropped questions into the Q&A box, and so we'll look to get through as many of those as we can. There was a question about the recordings. So the recording, if you register for this, it will be emailed to you within the next 24 hours. It will also be posted on that webpage, ucfunds.org/CT. As well as the deck. So if you're looking to access the slides, we will make that available on that website as well. The next question we have was from Toby Bishop, who asked about the difference in allocation from the current CTF funds that have what looks like a 70% equity allocation to the UCF Balance Fund and the Beyond Fossil Fuels Balance Fund having a 60% equity target. So I know Charlie can speak to this a little bit. I think that 10% difference was actually an allocation that was to real assets. I know from our perspective, we are happy to have conversations if your church or organization is looking for an increased allocation to total equity. We can definitely make that possible for you through our different fund options. But Charlie, if you wanted to speak to that, or Matt, to the equity allocation difference, I think that may cover it though.
Our investment policy was 60% equities, 30% fixed income, and 10% real assets. At our size and volume, we chose to use equity vehicles to invest in real assets. So we were getting a diversification benefit, even though it was an equity vehicle to get into the real assets. So from our perspective, we were 60-30-10. You could look at that as 70-30. Certainly the real assets we hoped would provide equity-like returns. but also provide a diversification benefit.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. I wanted to go to Dave Peters' question. He asked about statements. So within the UCF client portal, all of the statements that will be available will be from the time in which you transition over to UCF. We will not be retaining any of the current CTF statements. But that is a question that I'll ask Charlie if there is some kind of archiving that may be occurring for participants to retrieve any statements from previous time periods.
We will not be able to provide online access. However, we are archiving all of the statements. So if you have lost or you need to recover history, that will still be available by contacting the conference, me or a successor person. We won't throw out any of the records.
Great, thank you. There was a question about how many days after month end statements are available on the UCF portal. Matt, if you want to take that, I know you know the answer to that one.
Yeah, sure. No, it's great. These are all great questions. Thank you so much. So 3 to 5 business days after the quarter close, you'll also receive monthly statements from us that'll be available 3 to 5 business days after the month end close. So essentially on the client portal, you'll have monthly statements, you'll have quarterly statements, and then you'll have an annual statement. Those will all be archived moving forward. Your UCF statements will be archived on the platform, on the what we call the InnoView or the UCF client portal platform. They'll all be there for you. They're easily searchable, and that database again is building as we started this new portal back in 2022. I do see a couple of other questions, if you don't mind, Stacy, just around sort of like the customization of portfolios. So we do think that we hope that there would be questions about this. The transfer will happen. If you were in the total return fund, it's going to go to the UCF balance fund. If you were in the Eden fund, it's going to go to the Beyond Fossil Fuels balance fund initially. Remember, we said in this presentation that you have daily liquidity with us and that there are no fees or penalties for moving around. So we encourage churches, if you asked a question or if you have a question and maybe just didn't ask it about maybe we're not totally sold on one or both of those options. Do we have access to all 11 funds? The answer is yes. And we highly encourage your investment committee or board of trustees to contact Stacy and I. We will walk you through those options. We will want to learn more about your church's goals and objectives. And we will help you as fiduciaries craft a investment portfolio that is in alignment with your values. You have access to all of our funds. I just want to be really clear about that. And we welcome the opportunity to be able to meet with you, just to get to know your church and to really understand your goals and objectives so we can maximize our platform's benefit to you.
Great. Thank you, Matt. I also saw a question regarding historical data, whether that's pricing. We do strike a daily net asset value of each fund. Also, we provide performance data, historical performance data within the investment section on our website on ucfunds.org. So that kind of information is present there. We also have fund fact sheets that we post about a month and a half or so after quarter end that provides more detail into the allocation for that particular quarter, the performance, and it's always referencing historical data as well, so that you can have a reference point of 3, 5, 10-year performance. So that is available all within the investment section on the UC Funds website.
And I would just note for all of you that are looking for that historic performance information, if you go to the UCF Balance Fund, you're going to see 10 years of data. If you go to the Beyond Fossil Fuels Balance Fund, you're going to see 5 years of data. That fund strategy was created in November of 2014. So we are pretty close here to celebrating a 10-year anniversary on that fund, and we'll have 10 years of historical data about the beyond fossil fuel strategies here fairly shortly. I saw one more question while I've got the mic, I guess, and I'll turn it over to you, Stacy. Douglas Moore had a great question about Morningstar ratings. We get this question all the time from our clients. So our funds are captive to UCF. They don't have ticker symbols that are widely available to other investors. So our funds are for our investors. So we don't fall into Morningstar categories. We do use what's called Lipper peer groups. So Lipper, company that's been around forever, they provide us with peer groups of hundreds of other professionally managed funds that kind of look and feel and are allocated similarly to our funds. We create what we call the Lipper median peer group. So that median manager performance creates essentially an index that's used fairly widely in the institutional money management world. And we use the Lippers in the Lipper categories instead of Morningstar. So you're going to see that information from us every quarter, and on annual basis as well. So thank you, Stacy.
Yep, there were a couple questions, and I think Matt alluded to it around allocation changes. So initially, the transition will occur, as we mentioned, from the two funds that you're currently in to the two funds that UCF offers that are comparable. But we are happy to have those conversations once the transition has ended, or once the transition is complete, to make adjustments to your portfolios. So please reach out to us after the transition date so that we can support you in those conversations of allocation changes if that's what is needed. Someone asked if a church doesn't fill out the forms, what happens there. And Charlie can speak to it a little bit more, but the consolidated trust fund is actually dissolving, and so there is not the option to actually stay where you are currently. And so a decision will need to be made, and you can communicate that to Charlie or to us about what you'd like to do. So Charlie, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak on that.
Yes, the funds will be transferred on April 16th. If we don't have all the information from participants, that will slow down any requests for distributions in the future or reallocations until that information is provided to United Church funds. So it behooves everybody to provide the information for a smooth transition to make sure there's no interruption in distributions.
Great, thank you. I'm just gonna check in with our team to see if we have any.
Stacy, just a couple of questions out there that I'm looking at. It's hard to, I know you're looking at two different screens. It's hard to look at them all. A couple of really good questions around indexing versus active management in our funds. So we have an investment team that, as you heard before, can actively tilt our balance strategies plus or minus 10% from the targeted allocation and have the ability to use some cash in those portfolios as well when market conditions dictate. What I would tell you about indexing is that we do have some investment managers on our platform. So we use investment managers to do the trading of our portfolio. We use some sort of enhanced index strategies to keep fees low within the managers themselves. We are active managers at UCF. We believe in active management, and we have certainly seen the benefits of that, especially over the last couple of years as markets have gotten much more volatile. But we do use indexing within our manager structure to be able to keep our fees lower for all of our clients so that we can return more of that money to your bottom line mission and ministry.
Thank you. There is a question about any liquidity barriers as it relates to closing out current positions that CTF currently has. Charlie can speak to it, but I know we've been all working together with the current investment manager to ensure that that liquidity is there well before the transfer date. But Charlie, if you wanted to add anything else
Yes,
around that.
we everything held by the consolidated trust funds is daily liquidity. And the question regarding holdbacks, we will hold back a modest amount of money for paying the bills associated with expenses as they come in. We are accruing expenses as we go along. However, any of the amounts held back that are not used to pay for expenses will be returned to the fund. So there won't be any increase in expenses borne by the participants.
Thank you. I believe we've gotten to all of the questions. Is there anything else? I'll check another chat and see if there's anything else, but I believe that's it. We are so grateful for your time. Again, we ask that you reach out to us if you have any additional questions, or if people are rewatching this or watching it for the first time in the recording. We are available, and we ask that you visit the website to get any additional clarity or complete the forms that we need in order to make this a smooth transition. We are a mostly electronic organization, and so a lot of the information that you'll receive will be via email or will be through the client portal. So we'd like to get that information, that contact information, and authorized officers, so we know who we're talking to at your individual churches as soon as we can. Thank you all so much for your
Hey,
time. Yep,
hey, sorry, it's Adam. Can I just add one thing for clarification?
sure.
Because there was a question about this in the Q&A. So if you received an emailed invitation to this town hall, that means we do have your contact info. There's no need for you to fill out the Google form. You only need to fill out the CTF account transition form, which is on that same webpage at ucfunds.org/CT.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. Thank you, team. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.